The pathway to self-mastery is a very interesting one because many people think of it as very mystical, very motivating, and somewhat distant. I think it's because people think that self-mastery is something that is right in front of them. They can see role models who are so powerful, so wonderful, that they've reached where they might consider to be the mark of self-mastery. But they themselves find it so difficult and so tedious. Well, I've got to say, it might be tedious, but it's not mysterious. You know exactly what to do, but I think that's the point of self-mastery. Self-mastery isn't going to be easy, self-mastery is going to be tough. And that's the precise reason why you need to aim for it. I'm going to go off on a bit of a tangent and come back to the topic of self-mastery because I think it's important to take note of. Because there are so many things that can be talked about in self-mastery, and I really want my viewers to get into this role of a journeyer, someone who's pursuing this path of self-mastery, because every single individual should deserve prosperity and abundance in their lives, but it has to start from the mindset within your own head. So I recall an experiment that was done by Professor Alia Crum from Stanford University, a wonderful person. A lot of the studies that I've read, the way I've seen her speak and the kind of research that she's done demonstrates the character and the ethic of the nature of research and the diligence of care that goes into this kind of research and the creativity, of course. So in a nutshell, here's what the experiment was about. They wanted to see the effect of authority and the placebo on someone who was going to be given sort of like an allergic reaction, poison ivy, that kind of stuff. So an experimenter will come in and sort of like swab their skin with a particular allergen. And they wanted to see what kind of effect there would be in terms of the size, the physical size of that allergen. So they'll have a control group where they're just dousing it without any kind of experimental condition. And then they will have two other conditions. The first condition is someone who's a bit clumsy, not dressed very well, who gives the medical diagnosis, so to speak. And then there's another one who's got degrees on the wall and dressed up in a lab coat, that kind of thing. And what they found was quite stunning. The individual who was actually qualified but dressed up sloppily and pretended to be a bit more clumsy tended to become viewed as someone who was less credible. And that was based on the effect of the allergic reaction on the skin, compared with the other person who may have been a fake doctor and placed in a lab coat. This person seemed to be treated with a lot more credibility. Now, what was surprising there is not so much the placebo effect. To me, what's surprising is that our mind buys into this kind of stuff. There is a need, my friends, to be a little bit skeptical about the world around us because the world around us isn't as objective as we think. For example, there are some people who don't seem to be that intelligent, but they achieve a lot more in their lives. But why is it so surprising? Is it because we unconsciously equate intelligence with success? And if that's the case, where in the world did that come from? Is that true necessarily? I think a lot of people are intelligent, but they don't use their intelligence. There are some people who just have dumb luck and they become really successful. And as a result of taking a look at these different perspectives, my meaning of my world is changing. The meaning that I have in my world has completely transformed because I have different ways of viewing the world now. And when that happens, I feel less stuck. It's not as if, oh, I'm actually supposed to be intelligent, but yet I'm not producing results. What the hell? But in reality, I can then take a step back and go, you know, there are smart people who also get into bad situations, and I can lean into that. So it's not just a problem, it just happens to be a mistake that I can overcome. So having said that, Professor Alia Crum's research highlights the power of perspective, and I believe that people who have a stuck perspective will always have a stuck life. This is a dangerous thing to say because if you seem to be going through cycles of negativity in your life, then I'm not suggesting that to place the blame on you. What I'm saying is that there needs to be some level of proactive responsibility taken to see the pattern in your life. In my life, I went on this route of constant alcohol, some might call it abuse, because at one point of time I could drink 4 bottles of wine in one night, aside from some other things like sake and beer, but that's a different story to tell. And I didn't realize this, but I was developing a huge amount of alcohol tolerance. And up to a certain point, I didn't know that, my kidneys were overworked, my liver was overworked, and I started to get hypoglycemic. And that was along the line of being pre-diabetic. And I just didn't realize the implications of that until something terrible happened in my life. Lost a loved one. And as a result of that situation, I physically broke down and I emotionally couldn't keep it together. So it was quite a negative experience in my worldview, where every single thing came crashing down and I just couldn't have the means to move forward. And I had to recalibrate everything. And that's, my story of how I dropped from 85 kilograms down to 68 kilograms and maintained it ever since. So if you want to find out more about that story, it's somewhere in the links around here. So as I begin to recalibrate my perspective, I now get unstuck. I couldn't do 3 sit-ups before, and I want to do 30 sit-ups right now. It's impossible. But through the process of aiming for self-mastery, I put myself under intense pressure, do 10 sets of 3, and I get to 30, and now I'll be able to do at least 30 crunches at one go. Now the key is not about the numbers, the key is about the progress. And when the progress is obvious, you sort of convince yourself that almost anything is possible. So meaning making is a very, very powerful skill that we have, but sometimes we apply our imagination in the wrong direction. So my teacher in neuro-linguistic programming, Dr. Richard Bandler, says that there are a lot of people who can imagine positive possibilities and positive futures. If that's the case, then why are we using our imagination in the wrong direction? Imagination is a powerful thing. Think about it. When you're sitting down in a cinema watching a movie, you know it's made up, right? But you cry all the same, you laugh all the same, you get excited all the same. It's all directed. And if you can see yourself as the director of your mental movies inside here, the next step that you should be taking is to learn how to shift perspectives and create new meanings. Now, I've talked at length about neuro-linguistic programming, and if you want to find out more, I'm pretty sure that there's additional videos that I have in my stash to help you. But there is one very important skill set called reframing. It's used in almost all kinds of psychotherapeutic literature. Reframing is the ability to hold multiple characteristics in one person or one action. So for example, a person can be lazy at this point of time. You look at this person and, why are you lazing around? And I can say that that's just a temporary disengagement. Once this person gets inspired, they can become somebody else. Now, what does this mean? It means that in my head, I can create meanings momentarily, and I can hold multiple meanings across different time zones. I don't know about you, but that kind of boggles my mind, because it means that you're not just you. You are different versions of you, different variations of you. And I need to learn to accept that so that my perspectives facilitate your transformation. In other words, I don't think that self-mastery is really about self. Sometimes it's about allowing others to feel masterful by just changing your opinion of them. If you just go hard on a person, how do you go hard on a person? In the past, I used to have army instructors who would threaten me, and they would say that I'm low life and all that kind of stuff, right? Would that motivate me? Yeah, motivates me away from having any social contact with this person whatsoever. Conversely, as I move forward in life, I realize that there are other kinds of leaders, and there are some of them who would scold you and be very forceful on you because they see how much you have wasted your life, how much you have wasted your time. And they come up to you and say something like this: you're behaving in a way that's not like the person that I thought you were. I thought you were a person who would be a go-getter, you structure things properly, you frame things right. And if you continue this way, I'm afraid that version of you will die. So it's a way of how you put it, because the frame of reference that you have to a person is so important. Do you really want to be the person that is the well-dressed lab coat technician who's really quite a fake and a fraud, and then giving other people something really believable. Now that's going to be terrible because at the end of the day, they are going to believe you. So you have some credibility. Use that credibility to free people, free their minds, open themselves up. Is the entire process of working towards self-mastery by first challenging the meanings that you make in your mind, holding alternative viewpoints so that you can say for certainty that this is just temporary. My failure is temporary. This person behaving in a negative, aggressive, or somewhat off-putting manner is just temporary. Everything else leads to the path of prosperity. So I hope that this video gave you a little bit of insight into meaning making and self-mastery and their relationship. I hope that it also allows you to utilize the skill of reframing, perceptual position shifts from time and from different people's viewpoints so that you can realize that the world is more multi-dimensional than we think, and we can lean into that in order to elevate our thinking so that we can take actions towards abundance. If you like this video, please click on the like button and click on the subscribe button so that we will be able to get more reach within YouTube and get this message out to more people. If you know somebody who might actually benefit from this, please share this link with everybody that you know so that they'll be able to be a part of this family journeying towards the pathway to prosperity.